Hello, I'm Cheryl. Years ago, some of my friends were facing the same English language problems you may encounter today. That is why we decided to produce this video program. All the subject entries in the video program are easy to follow. They will allow you to study at your own pace. If you have a specific question, stop the tape, rewind it, and play it again. Don't try to do too much at one time, though. It's much more important to study 45 minutes or so at a time, but do it every day. Take as much time as you need to on any lesson. By getting well acquainted with each lesson, you will become much more confident in your use of English. Now, for some of you, the first lessons may seem simple, but don't skip them. Don't forget, they are the groundwork for the lessons ahead. Before we turn on to the main purpose of this lesson, perhaps we should define a few terms, such as the word alphabet, the definition of the alphabet, and the word phonics. The word alphabet comes from the names of the first two letters, alpha and beta, of the Greek alphabet. Let's try to remember what the definition of the alphabet says. The alphabet is a set of written symbols called letters. Sounding out letters, we make up words. This is called phonics. Lesson 1 teaches you the names of the 26 letters of the English alphabet and their sounds. Once you know them, you have the beginning skills you need to read. You will see that some letters say more than one sound, but we'll talk about that later. I'll give you the name and the sound of the letter, and a word for a key picture that will go along with each letter. I will say each of them twice. When I say them the second time, you say them after me. Speak loud to hear the sound of your own voice accurately. There we go. A. Arrow. Now say it with me. A. Arrow. Excellent. B. Biscuit. Now say it with me. B. Biscuit. Well, you know now the names of the 26 letters of the English alphabet and their sounds. By now you have the beginning skills you need to read. If you need to, stop the tape, rewind it, and play it again before moving on to Lesson 2. The alphabet was easy, but don't forget, the English language tends to be difficult because English is made up from words borrowed from various languages, including German, French, Latin, Greek, and others. Therefore, the words in the English language can lack uniformity and can give rise to a variety of pronunciation problems. If you eliminate these problems from the beginning, your pronunciation will be accurate. What do you have to know first? You have to know that there are two kinds of letters in our alphabet: consonants and vowels. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. All the other letters are consonants. If you don't know them, place the VCR on pause and learn them now. Up to this point, you may not have given much thought to how important the vowels A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y are. They are important because every word must have vowels in it. Words such as egg, jar, nut have just one vowel sound. Other words have more vowel sounds, such as cactus and rubber. Do you hear the two vowel sounds in cactus and rubber? And what else do we see? Right, we see that each of these two words has two parts. Each of these word parts is called syllable. A syllable is a word or part of a word with one vowel sound. The vowels can make two sounds, a short sound, which you'll learn in the first part of this lesson, and a long sound, which you'll learn in the second part of our lesson. Let's review the main entries of this lesson. We learned that we have two kinds of letters in our alphabet, consonants and vowels, and that the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. All the other letters of the alphabet are consonants. A syllable is a word or part of a word with one vowel sound. When a vowel has a consonant after it, that vowel always says its short sound. This is called the closed syllable rule. The sound of the short A, changes just a little bit when A has an M or an N after it. The rule of silent E, or the rule of magic E. The silent E at the end of a word does not make a sound itself, but usually changes the sound of the vowel before it. A syllable is open when that syllable ends in a vowel with no consonant following it. Well, I agree. Lesson 2 was really a long lesson. Rewind the tape and review the subject entries you learned so far. For more practice, you should read a magazine, a newspaper, or even a book. You will be surprised how many words you are able to read now. In Lesson 3, you'll learn about blends, digraphs, and are controlled. You will also find out that the letter Q is always followed by the letter U, and that the letter U in Q, qu, does not act as a vowel. You certainly need a break now, don't you? Well, Lesson 4 is very short. It teaches us only two sounds, the soft sounds of C and G. You learned that the letter C says K in cactus, and the letter G says G in glass. K and G are called the hard sounds. These two letters, C and G, have another sound called a soft sound. The soft sound for C is S, just like S. And the soft sound for G is J. The soft sound is usually heard when the C or G has an E, I, or Y after it. Before we move on, I want to remind you of one thing. Don't try to do too much at one time. Go at your own pace. Don't worry if a lesson takes you 1 hour or 1 week, as long as you learn it. Okay? You learned that two consonants that stand side by side can make just one sound. Two vowels can come together to make just one sound also. Two vowels that come together in a word to make only one sound are called diphthongs or vowel teams. You certainly heard the saying, when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. What that means? When two vowels come together, quite often, the first one says its own name, while the second one is silent. The subject entries in this lesson were not too difficult, were they? However, for more practice, rewind the tape and review the reading rules you learned in Lesson 5 before moving on to Lesson 6. How do we know when Y acts as a consonant and when Y acts as a vowel? This is what Lesson 6, the last lesson of our video program, teaches us. When Y comes at the beginning of a word, it is a consonant. Do you remember the key word for Y you learned in Lesson 1? Right, yacht. The letter Y says Y in yacht. Try reading these words now. Yeast, yellow, year, yard, yet, yesterday, yoke. So when Y acts as a consonant? Right. When Y comes at the beginning of a word, it acts as a consonant. You have the skills to read almost 90% of English words now. If you get well acquainted with the basic rules you learned so far, you will read with the ease and confidence that come from knowing exactly what you're doing. Don't forget, the more you practice, the less you have to worry about your pronunciation. Your pronunciation will come very naturally, and you will develop for yourself judgment about constructions and words.